Hi there, my name is Eric Lucio, and this is going to be my first round mock draft for the 2024 NFL season. I made this mock draft pre-combine, so there are some changes, but they will be addressed in my second mock draft. This is also a no trades mock draft, so I'm just going to go in order, have the teams have it. However, I do think there will be multiple trades on draft night. Without further ado, the number one overall pick, the Chicago Bears. I have them taking Caleb Williams. This is really a no-brainer. I expect the Justin Fields to be traded here any day now. Really, Caleb's he doesn't have any big flaws in his game. His ability to throw on the run, create. He's really, I think, one of two people that really have that the intangibles to be a guy like Mahomes or Allen. I don't necessarily think he'll reach that point, but he has the tools and the potential, and you just can't pass up on that if you're the Bears. Now, while Caleb doesn't have any major flaws that are glaring, he definitely is not the perfect prospect. He does struggle. Sometimes he takes too long and ends up taking bad sacks or creates turnovers when trying to create a play. But I think overall he'll be able to adapt, and that USC play style just isn't fit for the NFL. So I think that he'll be able to adjust. With the second overall pick, I have the Washington Commanders taking quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina. Don't be surprised if Jaden Daniels goes here. I have seen him mocked there a lot, and I've heard that the Commanders executives really like him, but I think at the end of the day, they'll take the right decision in my eyes and select Drake May. Now, I have seen some people lower on Drake May. Some people say it's because he's from North Carolina, which is such a horrible excuse. I mean, people say that Ohio State quarterbacks are bad, and then you have people like C.J. Stroud come in. The college does not affect necessarily how good they're going to be or not. I mean, you look at some of the best quarterbacks ever. Tom Brady he split reps at Michigan. Rodgers is out of California. So it's really irrelevant to me. Drake May is very special. He's like Caleb Williams. He was the other two out of the one of two guys that I think have those intangibles to be like Mahomes or Allen. He knows how to create. He keeps his poise. I like how he steps up in the pocket a lot. And, he's really creative. He has that left-handed throw for a touchdown. He can run, and I think that the Commanders will be able to use that. Now, North Carolina, he had decent weapons, but I think having Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, I think that he'll really thrive there. Okay, with the third pick in the draft, I have the Patriots taking Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. Although he is the reigning Heisman and definitely has upside, he's a great dual threat. I think he struggles. He takes the worst hits I've legitimately ever seen as a quarterback. Seriously, go back and watch his tape. There are mixes on YouTube of how bad of hits that he takes. He does not slide. And while that might seem like an easy fix, oh my gosh, just go down. That's what the NFL coaches are going to tell him. It's not something that a lot of quarterbacks adjust to right away, and I think that this could lead to major injury problems in the future. But I do think that the Patriots won't pass up on getting their next quarterback, and, the offense starts with the quarterback. So I think they're going to select Daniels with the third pick. With the fourth pick in the draft, I have the Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison Jr., receiver out of Ohio State. He's really just the perfect wide receiver prospect. If this class didn't have a good quarterback class, I do believe Marvin Harrison would have gone number one overall. I think as far as talent goes, he is the number one in the draft. He literally does not have a weakness to his game. I wouldn't say that he's the best at very many categories in this draft because this is such a receiver-heavy class, but he excels at everything, and that just puts him head and shoulders above everyone else. The receivers at Ohio State, Brian Hartline, he teaches them about ball tracking, and that's something that he really emphasizes. If you look at Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, McLaurin, people like that, they are some of the best receivers in the league in Jigba when it comes to ball tracking. And I don't see that Marvin Harrison is going to struggle with that at all in the league. His one weakness, maybe the thing that you say that you'd give him below an A grade on would be yards after catch, but even then he's not a liability, so it's not something you can hold against him. He really is almost the perfect receiver prospect. He has the build, he has the speed, he has the hands, he has the route running. He just has a near perfect game. With the fifth pick, I have the Chargers taking Malik Neighbors, receiver out of LSU. Don't be surprised if they go Fashanu or Alt here with a tackle, but I do think that they are going to address the receiver position with Keenan Allen getting old, Mike Williams is getting old, and Quentin Johnston is just not who they thought that he was going to be. Getting a skill player for Herbert, especially with this new coaching under Harbaugh, I think that that's going to be a must-need for them. Neighbors is just a really complete athlete. He's really fast. He has good hands, and the thing that impresses me the most is his yards after catch ability. I think he's going to be similar to Debo when it comes to yards after catch. He really just excels at it. I think he's really special. I could see them also going a Dunze if they choose to go the receiver route, but I think ultimately they would choose Neighbors because, a lot of offenses in the league, they like to have a different skill set for each of the X, Y, and Z receivers. When it comes to Keenan Allen, he's a great possession receiver. He'll get you 15, 20 yards, and that's nice. Mike Williams is that high point, lob it up, and that's kind of where Rome Odunze is also. So I don't think they'd address that. I think they'd go Malik Neighbors, the speedy go route, yards after catch guy. I think he would be a really nice tool in their offense. With the 6th pick in the draft, I have the Giants taking Rome Odunze, receiver out of Washington. I think that if the Patriots do go Harrison at 3, then Jane Daniels will probably land here at 6. But in this case, I have Rome Odunze going to New York. Like I stated before, his hands and his high point catching ability is the best in the class. I think that entering the league day one, he's probably got top 5 hands in the league. He's really just that nice. He doesn't drop the ball. He benefited from having a good quarterback in college. And I think that, having that catch radius that he has, if the Giants do decide to go keep with Daniel Jones or they get someone else, I think that he'll be such a nice addition to their offense. They really lacked having a real special receiver since, honestly, Odell Beckham. With the number 7 pick, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Joe Alt. I think Alt and Fashanu are 1A and 1B. I could see either of them being in place for each other. I like Joe Alt as a prospect. He definitely has some flaws, like his anchor. He's not very good at staying stable, especially against bull rushers, but he used to play tight end, so his mobility is pretty good. And I mean, that frame, 6'9", 320 pounds. I think that he'll be, at the very least, a serviceable tackle in the league. With the number 8 pick in the draft, I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Jared Verse, edge out of Florida State. I have seen him falling, and I know that he didn't have a great combine performance, but at the end of the day, I think that he'll still go up pretty high, even if it's maybe not to the Falcons. But in this scenario, I mean, the Falcons really just don't have a premier edge rusher. They have some good interior defensive linemen, but they really need somebody on, the front 7 to apply pressure. They have some guys. I mean, their linebacker core is decent. AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates, they just need somebody to help apply pressure so then the secondary doesn't have to be in coverage for so long. I know that really hurt them this year, and it made their defense not as good as I think it could have been. The thing that really sticks out with Verse, though, is his speed. His agility is amazing. I think that he can definitely get to the quarterback, one of the fastest, if not the fastest in the entire class. And he's not the strongest, and he also is not the best tackler at his position in the class. His speed to power is not really something that's very impressive either, especially in comparison to some of the other edges in this class. But I think his potential is something you can't pass up on, and I think that, his weaknesses are definitely not flaws that can't be fixed in the league. With the number 9 pick, I have the Bears taking Dallas Turner, edge out of Bama. I think that this pick is likely to be traded, and in my eyes should be traded. But if they do stay with the selection, I think that they'll address the edge position. They just traded for Montez Sweat this past season, but I think adding somebody like Turner to complement him in the defense is going to help, especially when the rest of their defense is not particularly strong. They just released Eddie Jackson. Jalen Johnson is a good corner, but I think that having that dual threat will definitely be a friend to the secondary, and it'll improve their defense overall. Now, I don't necessarily think that he has, a wide variety of moves in his bag. I think that he kind of is one-dimensional when it comes to that. He uses speed to power a lot, but, taking a guy from Alabama is just a reliable choice. As I stated, school isn't everything, but the coaches there, they know how to develop players, and I think that Dallas Turner, just taking any edge at Bama is not a bad choice, but I do think ultimately this pick should be traded. With the 10th pick in the draft, I have the Jets selecting Olu Fashanu, tackle out of Penn State. This is one of those guys that you just can't pass up on because of the build. He has such a great height to weight, build for an NFL offensive tackle, and his athleticism is off the charts for someone of his size. I do think that he's inconsistent at times, which is a reason why I think that he's dropping. At the beginning of the season, I thought he was a top 5 pick for sure, but as the season progressed, he had some moments of inconsistency, which is normal, but I think it's definitely fixable, and he's one of those freaks of nature that it's just really hard to pass up on if you're an NFL GM, and the Jets desperately need help at the offensive line position, especially for Aaron Rodgers when he comes back this season. At the number 11 pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings going with Laiatu Latu, edge out of UCLA. Now, Latu is one of those players that I could see going higher, but I could also see him dropping in the draft. His build is not anything, incredible or anything that stands out, but he has a lot of other strengths. I do think that he has the deepest bag when it comes to ways to get to the quarterback in this class. He has the speed, the power, the swimming, the swatting. He's just very good, and he has a lot of variety in his moves, and I think that will definitely play to his strengths in the league. And with people like Daniil Hunter, where nobody knows if he's staying or getting traded or anything at the offseason, I think that the Vikings should address the edge position. Honestly, the Vikings could take any position on defense, and it would help their team. Their defense was abysmal last season, and yeah, I definitely think that they need to take an edge, and I think Latu is a pretty good prospect for that. At the number 12 pick, I have the Denver Broncos taking J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. At the time of recording, it was confirmed yesterday that Russell Wilson will be released by the Broncos, so quarterback is definitely going to need to be addressed. He did not have the greatest combine. I saw some people saying that he did. He did not. Somebody did. I forgot who it was, but somebody ran the statistics and watched it back in his throwing at the combine. The only type of throw that he threw with over 90% accuracy was screens in the entire combine. So, I don't think he's a horrible prospect. As an Ohio State fan, I definitely don't like him, but I do think that he's a good athlete. He has that winner's mentality. He has that intangible that it obviously helped lead him to a national championship. I think that he benefited a lot from Michigan's offense, but I don't think that he's as bad as some people are making him out to be. But I don't see him as a quarterback that could ever, lead a team to the Super Bowl. I do think that he could thrive in a Shanahan-style offense, but under Sean Payton and the Broncos, I just don't know. At the number 13 pick, I have the Raiders taking Taliese Fuaga. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but he's a tackle out of Oregon State. Now, this is a case where I think that the school that he comes from hurts him. I don't think that he was very disciplined at Oregon State, and I think that at a place like Bama or Ohio State or one of the Blue Bloods, he probably could have excelled more, but I think that he's one of the best prospects in the draft. I really, really, really like him. I think that he has amazing hands, and his ability to anchor is one of the best out of all the tackles in the class, and I think that it'll translate well. The Raiders could really use getting a good first-round pick this year. They have had so much trouble with drafting in the past, and I think that this would be a really great pick for them in their future. Now, in the case that McCarthy falls, I wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy goes there or if the Raiders take a corner, but personally, I would take Fuaga. I think that he's a really good prospect, and the Raiders could still definitely use him. With the number 14 pick in the draft, I have the New Orleans Saints taking J.C. Latham, tackle out of Alabama. Now, I don't think Latham is the perfect prospect, and he definitely has some discipline issues. He had 12 flags in 2022, so that's definitely a problem that's going to need to get addressed when he gets drafted. But, he has the build. He's 6'6", 350, and again, a tackle out of Bama. Usually not a bad decision. I do like his lateral movement and his ability to anchor. He's not an amazing athlete, but he's definitely not a liability when it comes to that, so I don't have much to say on him. With the number 15 pick, I have the Indianapolis Colts selecting Terrion Arnold, corner out of Alabama. Personally, I really love Arnold as a prospect. I think he's a great athlete. He's one of those guys that got better every single year of his college career. He's really good in man coverage. He's not the best in zone, but I think that he's going to fit with the Colts really well. I could see the Colts going Bowers here or just another skill position, but I think that Arnold even falling to 15 is a risk. I think that he could honestly go within the top 10. He's really that good. I really like his patience when it comes to the line of scrimmage, but he's also really aggressive, and I think that that's a trait that not all of the corners in this class have, so I really like him here at this spot. At the number 16 pick, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Byron Murphy II, defensive lineman out of Texas. I really like Murphy as a prospect. The Seahawks could definitely use him on the line. I think that he'd be great to pair alongside of Leonard Williams. He's super athletic. His first step off the line, I think, is something that's really special. He's also just a really smart player. He has a good feel for the game. He's able to spot the gaps and address them pretty quick. So I think that he's going to be a really good player in the league. He's not huge, so I think, pairing him along Leonard Williams, that'll be a good fit for him. But he's one of those guys where he doesn't have the sack numbers if you just look at the box score. But, he is so good at getting pressure. If you look at that K-State game, he's the reason that they kind of won on that last play. He got in Will Howard's face and, disrupted the play and ultimately made the stop for the Texas defense, and they won the game. At the number 17 pick, I have the Jags taking Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson. I just think he's an overall really good prospect. Obviously, he showcased his speed with a 4.28 at the combine, but he also lost a lot of weight for that, so I don't know how to accurately gauge that. A lot of people did that too. Xavier Worthy weighing in at 165. I don't think that he's the most technically resound prospect out of all the corners, but he doesn't have huge flaws in his game. I don't think that he's going to be, one of the top corners in the league, but I do think that he'll be serviceable, and I do like the pick here for the Jags. I do think that they might go Quinyon Mitchell, though he has been rising in stock, so don't be surprised if Mitchell goes here at 17. The Jags are also in pretty desperate need for a corner here. They whiffed on the C.J. Henderson pick a couple years ago, and having somebody that you can just rely on, at least for some of the time, you have to go with a corner here. They had pretty good safety play. Their linebacker play was better than expected, and Josh Allen's really good on the defensive line, so corner's, I think, the obvious pick here for the Jags. At the number 18 pick, I have the Bengals selecting Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. Brock Bowers is incredible. He's really, really special. I have him falling basically solely off of position value, but he's one of those guys where I wouldn't be surprised if he is taken higher. I think he should be taken higher. I think that when it comes to talent-wise or prospects as a whole, he's probably in the top 5, definitely top 10 for me. He's fast, he's quick, his route running for a tight end is exceptional, and I think that no matter what, he's going to excel. If he does fall to the Bengals here, I think the league is definitely going to be in trouble. They just franchise tag T. Higgins. They have Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. Having Burrow to have all of these options to throw to, and adding Brock Bowers to that, it's just going to be unfair for the league. I really, really, really like Bowers here, but don't be surprised if he goes higher in the draft. I think he definitely should. With the number 19 pick in the draft, I have the Rams selecting Jackson Powers-Johnson, center out of Oregon. He's definitely not the biggest guy, but what really stands out is, he's just so explosive off the snap. I think that his agility and his quickness are head and shoulders above the other interior linemen in the draft. And he's definitely not the biggest guy, and I think that he has some trouble with balance, and sometimes, not being as big with his arm length, it can definitely be a negative at times, but I think overall it's going to be a good pick for the Rams. They definitely need offensive line. It's just gone downhill since their Super Bowl win, so addressing that here in the first round I think is a good option for them. At the number 20 pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Amarius Mims, tackle out of Georgia. Amarius Mims is just huge. He's 6'8", 340, and, coming out of Georgia, they just produce these huge guys that always end up excelling in the league. To me, the biggest problem with Mims is just lack of experience. He only started 8 college games in his entire career, but the fact that he's mocked this high shows the production that he had in those 8 games were really good. He definitely has some weaknesses. He's not the best in the run game, and I think that his second level speed is not one of the best in the class, but I think that overall he's a pretty good prospect, and the Steelers could definitely use him. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers do go with a skill position, though, here, but especially with the lack of receiver production outside of George Pickens, and Deontay Johnson's deal expires after next year. And with this being such a deep wide receiver class, I wouldn't be surprised if they go there, but I think that Mims should be the pick for them here. Their offensive line kind of struggled, and having a good running back duo, I think that Mims can improve in the run game and overall be pretty solid. With the number 21 overall pick, I have the Dolphins selecting Troy Fautanu, tackle out of Washington. He's not the biggest guy, but he's also not small. I like him decent as a prospect. I think that his lateral quickness and his bend in his knees when he's blocking is something that he's pretty good at. But, the technique and everything is something that can sometimes get away from him. And I think that it might hurt him, but overall, the Dolphins desperately need a tackle to pair alongside with Teron Armstead. So I think that this would be a good pick here for the Dolphins. With the number 22 pick, I have the Eagles selecting Cooper DeJean, corner out of Iowa. Again, don't be surprised if they go Quinyon Mitchell here. If they do address corner, I think that he could rise up. In this mock, I do have Mitchell falling a little bit, but Cooper DeJean is a Swiss Army knife. He's really just a really special athlete. He has great frame, and I think that his recovery speed is elite. Probably, in my opinion, the best out of any corner in this class. And I think that especially his man coverage and actually both his man and zone are something that he's really just has a natural feel for. And I think that he could play safety. I think that he could play nickel. I think that he's really just one of those guys that can kind of do it all. He's kind of just a freak. And the Eagles secondary just struggled so much this past season. Bradbury had such a big fall off, and Slay's getting up there in age. Addressing corner, I think, is a must need for the Eagles if they want to have any type of stable defense this upcoming season. With the number 23 pick in the draft, I have the Houston Texans selecting Brian Thomas Jr., receiver out of LSU. This guy's really blowing up, especially after his combine performance. He's 6'3", 209 pounds, but he ran a 4.33. That's just something that you don't see very often. That's really special, and I think that will boost him up here into the higher parts of the draft. Being that fast and quick, it's very rare that stuff like that doesn't translate to the league. I think that his agility is outstanding. He has length, he has long arms, which helps with his catch radius. And I think that he has an underrated part of his game when it comes to route running. He doesn't have the most complete route tree, but I think that his break off the ball is something that's really good, and it really impressed me. I think that the Texans should address receiver here. They had breakouts from Tank Dell and Nico Collins this year, but I think having that third guy, or you never know with injuries, and Noah Brown's a free agent, so I think that getting Brian Thomas here would be such a good strength for them, but I could also see them going corner or somewhere on defense. With the number 24 pick, I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting Tyler Guyton, tackle out of Oklahoma. With it being likely that Tyron Smith is going to leave this offseason, tackle is just something that needs to be addressed for the Cowboys. Guyton has the build for it at 6'7", 328. He definitely meets that standard. I think that his run blocking is pretty impressive, especially when it comes to his athleticism. He's pretty explosive. He definitely has some weaknesses. He isn't the longest despite his strength. His arms are not the longest, and I think that sometimes his timing with getting to the pads of the defensive linemen are not something that's always elite, but he has a high potential, and the Cowboys have just kind of been notorious for developing offensive linemen. You look at Tyler Smith, you look at Travis Frederick, Tyron Smith, Leo Collins back in the day. I think that this will be a good pick and honestly a good fit for Guyton if he wants to develop as a lineman. With the number 25 pick, I have the Packers selecting Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo. Like I said, I think it is very, very likely that Mitchell could go higher in the draft, but in this scenario, I have him falling to the Packers here, and I think that, he is just a great prospect. Standing at 6 foot, 195, he has the build for it, but what's really impressive, it's kind of like Brian Thomas Jr., he ran a 4.33 at the Combine. I am a little concerned when it comes to the competition. Playing at Toledo, he wasn't exactly playing against elite receivers. He did have a game against Ohio State where he played Marvin Harrison, and he actually played pretty well overall in that game. So that impressed me. I don't think he's the most polished corner, but I think that his potential is definitely off the charts. His ball hawking skills are probably one of, if not the best, in this entire class, and he's a really good pick overall. I definitely think that there's potential for bust, especially coming out of such a small college. I think that corners usually excel coming out of, playing against elite talent in college, but I think that he's going to be pretty good in the league. With the number 26th pick in the draft, I have the Buccaneers selecting Troy Franklin, receiver out of Oregon. Now, he didn't have the best combine, but his numbers through the season and what he showed throughout the season, I mean, that elite speed and acceleration, I think that the Buccaneers could definitely use it. Like I was talking about with the Chargers, teams like to have that, 1-2-3 punch, and I think Mike Evans at the high point and, Chris Godwin as a yards after catch kind of guy and possession receiver. I think that adding Troy Franklin and his speed is something that the Buccaneers could definitely use in their future. Like I said, he didn't have the best combine, which is why I think that he might fall. I wouldn't be surprised if Adonai Mitchell went here or even maybe like Ladd McConkey. But I think that, even with the bad combine, the numbers are there. The frame is there. He's tall and athletic, and the speed is obviously there. And I think it's kind of what the Buccaneers are looking for. So I think that this is what they'll address. They also could address edge. They just released Shaq Barrett. But I like Troy Franklin to the Bucs. With the number 27 pick, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Kool-Aid McKinstry, corner out of Alabama. With the Cardinals addressing receiver at the 4 pick, I think that corner is their next best, their most necessary need as a team. And I think McKinstry is definitely a prospect that they'll like. He does struggle with hand fighting. I think that pass interference calls might be something that he struggles with, especially towards the beginning of his career, but he's great in zone coverage. I love him as a tackler. I think that I love his aggression, so I think that it'd be a good pickup here for the Cardinals. At the number 28 pick, I have the Bills selecting Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. Now, I do think that Robinson needs to diversify in his rushing bag. I think that he relies on speed and power a little bit too much, but it's because his speed and power is really, really impressive. Running a 4.48 at 250 pounds is just really impressive. And, you look at somebody else like from Penn State, like Micah Parsons. I mean, just watch Chop Robinson's film. He's so explosive. He's one of those guys that's going to be high energy. When he gets a sack, you're going to hear the hit. It's going to be a boom. So I think that this is going to be a home run pick, actually, for the Bills. I really like Robinson as a prospect. He definitely has some flaws, but I think that the Bills need somebody like that on defense. I mean, that Von Miller contract just turned out to be horrible. And guys like A.J. Epinesa, they're just not going to get it. Like Greg Rousseau, they're not going to get it done like I believe Chop Robinson can. With the number 29 pick, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. Now, Rakestraw's stock went down a little bit after the combine. He didn't run as fast as people wanted him to, as what he was anticipated. He ran a 4.5, so he might not be the athlete that everyone initially thought he was going to be, but his understanding for the game and his football IQ is so high. I think that his length, he's a very tall, lengthy corner, so I think that will be something that'll help him. The Lions really just need another corner. Their defense didn't do bad. Aiden Hutchinson made a run. I could see them going edge to pair up with him. Their linebacker core did pretty great. Anzalone and Jack Campbell stood out. And their safety play is above average, so I think corner is just something that they need to address. And I like Rakestraw overall as a prospect. His man coverage is pretty good overall, and despite his athleticism not being as high as what we might have first thought, I think that he's still going to be a plus corner in the league, and I actually like him here at this spot. At the number 30 pick, I have the Ravens selecting Graham Barton, tackle out of Duke. He's definitely not the most polished prospect, and part of that stems from him not always playing tackle. He used to play center, but I think that actually helps him here a little bit in his game. I think that his football IQ and his versatility are definitely some strengths of his, and his background at center allows him to know multiple positions, knowing how to play different positions and pick up on different things. And I think that IQ is something that'll help him. It's what got him here to be a first-round prospect. Like I said, he's not the most polished, but the Ravens are one of the most well-coached teams in the entire league, and I think that, he's a first-round prospect for a reason. I think that he can make improvements and, be who they want him to be. With the number 31 pick, I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting Jordan Morgan, tackle out of Arizona. With Trent Williams getting up there in age, I think that tackle is something that would be good for the Niners to invest in if Purdy is their future, or regardless of that, just having that anchor at offensive line is always something that a team needs. And I think that Jordan Morgan's really good. I like him as a prospect a lot. He's a really good athlete, and while I think he has some wasted movement at times, I think that his athleticism is really something that shines. And his knee bend and his size are just something that I think is going to translate well to the league. So I think that this would be a good pickup for the Niners. And at the 32 spot, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Adonai Mitchell, receiver out of Texas. Now, initially, I had the Chiefs going Keon Coleman here, but I made this change actually just now because it just seems as if Coleman's stock keeps going lower and lower, and after the Combine, Adonai Mitchell performed so well that I think that he's going to sneak into the first round here for sure. Just like Brian Thomas, I mean, he excelled. I mean, at 6'2", 205, he ran a 4.34, which kind of just blew everyone away, and I think that his ball tracking ability and his ability to catch the ball at a high point are something that he's really strong and excels at. And while I think Keon Coleman obviously has that high point ability and big play ability, he's not very consistent. And I think that Mitchell, performing so well and looking great in the playoffs against Washington, I think that he's going to sneak into the first round. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he goes higher. And I mean, it's to no one's surprise that the Chiefs need a receiver. You look at who they had this year. I mean, Rashee Rice looks very promising, and I think that he's going to be somebody that's in the league for a while, but I think Adonai Mitchell has that home run potential where he could really solidify himself as a wide receiver one. So that's going to conclude my first round mock draft of the draft season here. Like I said, I think that there will be trades that are proposed. I think some people, I wouldn't be surprised if some people rise or fall, specifically like Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I could see them going a variety of places, but overall, this is a very, very strong draft class. I think that it's one of the strongest in years, especially very quarterback heavy, receiver heavy, offensive tackle heavy. I really like it. And in this video, I kind of treated each prospect as like a best case scenario. Obviously, there's going to be some flops and some trades and some things that don't work out, but overall, I think that this is a very high ceiling draft, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Puka Nacua or someone like that there in the later rounds that sneaks into the Rookie of the Year race. But overall, this is my first round mock draft with no trades, so I will be making an updated one soon. But yeah, thank you.